Hi everyone, it's Lynn from the Stitch TV show. So Pam and I decided to start recording quilt stories. And so one of the quilt stories, she did one last time, it was very touching. And I told her, I said, I can't do a touching one. So I'm going to tell you the story about this quilt. And this quilt was kind of how Pam and I met, so I thought that would be very appropriate. So my first venture into the Modern Quilt Guild is I showed up at the very first meeting of the Modern Quilt Guild, and that happened to be the day that they were doing the Robert Kaufman challenge. So, unbeknownst to me, they said, okay, everybody, we have free fabric today. Come up and get the fabric. And I was like, sweet, this is the guild for me. You get free fabric. I am so joining this place. So they gave us 2 charm packs of free fabric. And I was like, yes. And then as soon as the meeting's about to be over, they said, oh, by the way, if you take one of the charm packs, you have to make a quilt for our challenge. And I was like, oh, dang. Shoot. So now I have to make a quilt for this challenge. I thought it was free fabric, so that was gonna be cool. So I take the 2 charm packs home because you're not giving it back at that point. I'm like, all right, I'll be a part of the challenge. So didn't know these people at all, just shown up the first week. And so then I part of my life is a spiritual journey of my relationship with God, and so a lot of my quilts have that kind of bent background. It's very important to who I am and where I am. So I was having this conversation with a friend of mine. I didn't know what to do with these charm packs. I had no idea. So I had a conversation with a friend of mine, and how we were talking about Genesis, and we were talking about the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and they said to me this statement, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's true. They said, there were 2 trees in the garden. There was also the tree of life. And I went, nobody talks about that. Everybody talks about the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Everybody, that's where Eve gave the apple to Adam and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, nobody talks about the tree of life. So I thought there were 2 trees in the garden. So I decided to make a quilt about the tree of life, which is kind of, I think if you follow me on Facebook and stuff, this is actually my avatar. I love this quilt. It's one of my favorite quilts. And so I decided to take there were 2 charm packs, so I decided to take 1 charm pack, and I wrote 40 blessings of God on the charm pack. And then I took the yo-yo maker, the heart-shaped yo-yo maker, and I made all of those 40 blessings into heart-shaped yo-yos. And I did the tree, and then I put the heart-shaped yo-yos on the tree to represent the leaves. And then I decided to subway tile the outside of it so that it would look like movement. Subway kind of gives you that movement feel. And then I put, of course, the tree of knowledge of good and evil on there with the little apple because, it's part of the story. And then what I did is, you can't see this in the quilting, but in the border where the subway tile is, I actually quilted. I like writing on my quilts. Like if you see any of my art quilts, a lot of times there's text and writing in it. I like doing that. I think it kind of gives you more reason to look at the quilt. But so in this one, I wrote some scripture from Revelations. Oh gosh, I wish I remember exactly. I should have looked it up. It's Revelation 7:21, I think, and it talks about how the tree of life, the leaves from the tree of life will be used to heal the nations. And I felt like that was very, uplifting. The blessings of God are used to heal the nations and that kind of stuff. So anyway, this that was my creation, and that's what I chose to do this challenge on. And what was funny was you can see I got an award. It was my first award. Which is probably one of the reasons I like it too. but I turned it in to the challenge, and the guild liked it, and so I got guild choice, which I was really excited about. But it also taught me a lesson that you have to listen to all the instructions before you take free fabric, because then you may be, you know, trapped into a challenge you didn't think you were going to get trapped into. But it turned out really well, and I'm really proud of it, and I love the movement of it. Of course, you know, we were only allowed to use Kona cotton charm solids, and we could add solids to it, but it had to be Kona solids. So of course I added the brown, the green, and the blue to represent the trees and the sky and stuff. And I did a little thread painting on it. You can't see, but the apple's thread painted. So that was probably my first foray into thread painting too. So, but this is it's an old quilt. I did it several years ago. But it's kind of the start. Pam and I met in the Modern Quilt Guild, and that's where this kind of all started. And this is the reason I'm in that I was in the Modern Quilt Guild. So anyway, that's my quilt story. And please, you know, let us know if you got quilt stories. Share them with us. We'll definitely post them. We wanna get all the quilt stories out there that we can get out there. So thanks for joining us, and I'll see you later on the stitch.